Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lost Sheep Podcast. I'm Evan Abear here with
Cole Bissett
and
Nazario Pangallo.
So, welcome back to the Lost Sheep Podcast for episode 49. Super excited to be back recording today with both of you. Pretty busy week on the schedule for everyone, wrapping up school and starting finals and studying and all that. How are we feeling? I'm going to toss it to you first because we just got finished talking about how engineering is just a terrible discipline and the finals stink and it's awful. But you want to share a little insight on the life of a collegiate engineer and how horrible final season is for you?
Yeah, so finals is not a fun time for me. Nazario has a different experience over there, so I'll swing it to him in a second just so y'all can get the two sides of the sword. But for me, it's been a lot of studying, really. That's truthfully all it is. I have spent the last couple days locked in my house with some healthier versions of an energy drink. We're not sponsored by them, but
Don't say their
shout
name.
out.
Don't say their
I
name.
can't say their name.
Nope.
No,
That's
you
not how it
can't
works.
say their name.
Tragic. But it's a very wonderful brand. It's an antioxidant sparkling water.
Never
If
seen this
you
in my
want
life.
to research them,
We don't
just
give
know
shout outs
they're an
without getting paid, Cole.
antioxidant sparkling
Yeah.
water.
Also, yeah, YouTube will take us down.
I don't think they will.
Yeah.
Anyways, 70
So
milligrams.
yeah, if you're out there and you're the owner of this company or you work for them, help us out and get a sponsorship.
Well, they have to figure out what the can is. Anyways, yeah, so I've spent a lot of time studying, a lot of time studying with other people, a lot of time just mentally getting in the zone. It is quite an endearing time. I've got 5 finals. I've already taken one, so knocked it out. It was a lab, so I went ahead and got that over with. Probably got 100 on it, so that'll be nice, little GPA booster. But yeah, Nazario. So my side of the sword's a little sharp, and Nazario's tends to be quite dull.
Well, I think-
when it comes to exams.
I think we're kind of in the same boat because I'm, very excited to be finishing up, right? But what comes with that is like senior year, you do a finals, like I have finals, but it's not stuff that's hard or like in depth. Like I have 1-2 true finals, and not to mitigate, like you're a very hard worker, but we do rag on you a lot because
We do.
your testing protocol, your testing regimen for your degree is a little bit different than both of ours.
Would you mind giving us the total counter of the exams that you've taken since you've been here? And reminder, he is a rising, technically a rising senior here at the University of Alabama. So this is even wilder that this is his total exam count.
So after this semester, I'll be at 88 credit hours. So I will be
Not exam.
going into my final 2 semesters.
Well, that's a junior.
Technically, I'm a junior,
We'll be a
but
junior. That stinks for registration, man.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. I got all my
Anyway.
classes. So, yes, so on Tuesday, today is Friday when we record. So 4 days from now, I will be taking my first in-person official final of my career. This is my 4th semester at Alabama. And I've taken a few online finals, but mostly with news media, which is what I was for 2.5 semesters. All of our finals are basically project-based, so that's what I've had to do. Or final papers, which have kind of had a couple of those this semester, but have a real final that Cole was very excited about me taking, even though it is open note, so it's not really the same as any
did not know
engineering
that.
final. But
Win some, lose some.
Yeah, I guess.
Win
so
some.
I'm very excited about that. But hey, this is our chance to get away from school. This is our chance to have an escape and to just have fun, talk, have a great conversation. So let's dive in to the quote for today. And I did bring this quote. So I read this newsletter every single day just to try to stay up to date with things. And at the end of every email that they send, they have a quote. And these are a good amount of the quotes that I send to you guys because I don't see
I
quotes
figured.
anywhere else.
I
so
thought you had like a quote of the day or something.
I was gonna
'cause it
say
is,
I
like-
wondered where, because
Yeah.
Nazario is the worst
He's
one out of
on
the three
it.
of us about providing quotes like a year ago, and
I
now
think-
he's the best.
yeah.
So.
So I get a lot of these from there, and whenever I see one that I like, which I am super excited for when we have the basketball player, his quote that I sent earlier this week. I'm not gonna tell you guys who it is. You guys really like that one. Whenever we do that, that's gonna be very fun.
What was that one?
But you know,
I don't remember that.
There are
we
some
can
good
talk about it
quotes that
later.
you've
But
sent recently.
that one will be very fun. But for this week, we have one from Kurt Vonnegut.
Vonnegut. I think
Vonnegut
I
is
think
how
is how
everyone
you say
pronounces
it.
Kurt Vonnegut.
Sorry,
Here's the quote.
Sorry, he's an author.
He's an author. Any
Yeah.
books that you know?
No, we probably should have edited that before.
Yeah, that was our bad. We did not
Yeah.
do our background on
Yeah.
this guy.
Yeah.
But Kurt Vonnegut, his quote is, "We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be." I'll read it one more time. We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be. Cole over there, I sent this quote on, this morning I was like, what quote are we going to do? Because we didn't pick one yet. And Cole has some backlash, maybe some defensiveness towards this quote, and he was in his thermodynamics course, which is one of his hardest finals, so he probably should be paying attention in this class. No, he did not pay attention, ladies and gentlemen, this morning. His whole entire time spent on this quote. He wrote a full-on essay about this thing. So there is only one way to start this thing, and I'm giving it over to Cole to do that.
Before I dive into this a little bit, I would like to say it wasn't the full class. It was the last 15 minutes, and it's a bunch of bullet points. So maybe not an actual essay, but yeah. So Nazario sent us this quote and asked us what we thought about it, and I was like, so it may have sounded like I said I disagreed with it, and I do, but I agree with it in a different sense. I get what he's trying to say. I think he's saying it wrong. So the quote is, "We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about
right
what
out
we..."
the gate, changing the quote is insane.
Yes, I'm doing it.
Go
early.
for it. Yeah.
I provided y'all with this insight that I was going to do this to prepare y'all for this.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be. And I want to change this to, we are what we pretend to be to other people. We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be because of what other people might think of that, if that makes sense, right? And this is the reason I say this is because I think this quote can be perfect for moral authority, right? This is a huge conversation in discipleship. We talk about this all the time, right? Leading by moral authority, right? Practicing good morality and good virtues because other people can see that and can pick that up. And that's where we fall into the sin of scandal if you're practicing bad moral authority, right? You may not directly be affecting a person like in a sense of, oh, I stole this person's wallet or something. No, you're inadvertently hurting them and causing them to sin by falling into the same habits as you. And so what I don't like about this quote is what you pointed out, the first thing. I think it challenges what our identity is as a person, right? And so that's why I wanted to change it, because when we talk about like identity, right? And if we are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be. That's kind of like saying that we can change what our identity is from the beginning, right? And so first thing I want to say is the dignity, this is from the Catechism, is the dignity of the human person is rooted in his creation, in the image and likeness of God. It's fulfilled in his vocation to divine beatitude. That's from the Catechism's 1700 exact quote right there.
Now that you can gamble again, completely unrelated, what is your bet that at some point when he pulls his microphone, it's going to fall into his lap?
Cole's going to drop his microphone?
No, like, you see how it's way stretched out like that? Like $100, right?
They're pretty good odds, but I don't think there's any
bet money,
value in making that bet.
I'll take the...
Anyway.
I'll bet.
Sorry, continue.
Anyways, so the 3 points I want to highlight from this, that's not what I actually thought you were going to ask about. I thought you were asking about a definition.
Oh, no,
I
I
thought he was
got
for
a
sure gonna
lot.
ask about
I got a lot of questions already.
I thought he was going to ask.
Do we want to dive
about
in? Do we want
who
to
to
dive in?
bet on.
Well,
Can you read that quote?
Yeah.
Real fast
The
again?
dignity of the human person is rooted in his creation, in the image and likeness of God. It's fulfilled in his vocation to divine beatitude. And there are 3 points in there that I want to highlight at some point, but I want to let y'all go for it.
No, I love that. It's 17.
1700. Yeah.
Okay.
On the dot.
Yeah, that's really cool. I want to dive into your point about moral authority because I know this is something that we talk about a whole bunch, right? So when you're speaking on moral authority, like what you kind of patch those together, right? Moral authority in this quote.
Yeah.
What is the theme behind that? Are you saying like moral authority is great for this quote because we're pretending? Moral authority is bad for this quote because we shouldn't be pretending? Like, what's that stance? Because you kind of just stated it. I want to hear, but I want to hear like what are you thinking behind that?
I think first off, I have a lot of trouble with the word pretend in this quote. I think I struggle with that. I don't know if that's the right word I want to use because, again, I'm bringing up the definition already because why not? I got it.
I love when people say they struggle with words. Like it's a word. Like it has a definition.
I struggle with it being in this context.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's being in this context, in this, like...
In moral authority and what we're talking about.
Well, I mean, the quote isn't related at all to moral authority.
Yeah, but when I shifted it, it was.
Okay.
Anyways.
Okay.
So
you're just getting challenged, Cole.
No,
yeah.
No,
I love it. I think this is great.
Let's be so clear. When Cole texted this morning, I actually did a little like rub my hands together, lick my lips. I was like, "Oh, brother, here we go."
And she's gonna play the devil's advocate all episode.
Never.
It's gonna be really fun.
No.
We're just trying to see what you can do.
Yeah.
You're adamant about it, so you're playing on your back heels
yeah,
now.
Of course. So the definition of pretending is to speak and act so as to make it appear that something is. Oh man, I didn't write this out very well. To speak and act so as to make it appear that something is the case when it in fact is not, or to lay claim to a quality or title. So I just don't think pretend and moral authority should be a thing either. I think the correlation.
He is completely changing the quote. Just demolishing
moral authority has there's no foot in the door here about moral authority, but yet we are.
I don't think you should have to pretend to practice moral authority.
Well, no, of course not.
Yeah. So, is that wrong to say?
No.
Okay.
The quote has nothing to do with moral authority.
Again, though, I think what he's trying to get across is we are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be, right? I think it has everything to do with moral authority, right? And in the sense that what we pretend to be is affecting other people. Right, I don't like that he's saying our identity is changing in this. It's not the way I'm taking this quote, if that makes sense. Right? If I want to take it in the positive direction, this is my spin on it. Mm-hmm. Right? If we are what we pretend to be, we must be careful about what we may pretend to be because we may be pretending to be something that we are not. Right? If we're Catholic and we're pretending, like we're all three of us are Catholic, and if we're pretending to be Catholic, right, and we're not actually practicing by any of those virtues, then are we leading with good moral authority?
Question for you, Cole. If we must be careful what we pretend to be. If we are pretending to be something for so long, do we stop pretending and does it become our identity?
No, and this was the exact reason.
Yeah, that was my question. If it looks like a duck, and if it acts like a duck, and it sounds like a duck, right? Old psychological question. Is it a duck?
Is it a duck, Cole?
No. And this is my...
Interesting take on that one.
Very.
You know what I'm saying, though, right?
No, I get what you're saying. It's like, but that it also goes back to the argument. I could say I'm a chair for all my life, act like a chair, sit like a chair, not move like a chair. Does that make me a chair? No, and which is a very common argument with a lot of different things currently in society.
But right. But that's morphological, and what we're keying into with, like LGBTQ plus and gay marriage and stuff like that. I think. And transgender and whatever, right? That's kind of what we're queuing into. And those are morphological things more, right? Like that's not a posture of the heart, right? When we talk about there's been feminine guys or more masculine women all throughout history, right? That's kind of like regular. But all throughout history we haven't had transgender people. But my big thing is we give out Oscars, we give out Emmys, we give out all these awards for actors and pretenders, call them as you will, right? Because when a really good actor acts and a really good pretender pretends, you cannot decipher the play from reality or the show from reality. Like, that's the whole point, right? When you watch a television show, when you watch a movie, the whole idea is that you have this experience where you're so immersed in the show that it's reality. At least for me, like, that's what I'm looking for. And obviously it's different if, like, you know, there's magic and stuff like that. But, like, the whole point is, like, this is so believable and these characters are so invested in the show that it's almost like they're actually living the show. And so this is where I go, right? When we become such good pretenders, we are living that life. Because as Nazario said, you know, okay, let's take your example. We pretend to be Catholic. But let's pretend to be 100% Catholic. And that includes, like, posture of the heart, posture of the soul, posture of the mind,
Wouldn't
right?
that include going to the sacraments as well?
Yeah, so you're pretending to be Catholic. You're doing the sacraments. Well, what do you need to be able to do that? You need to be in a state of grace. You need to regularly attend Mass, right? You are pretending to be Catholic by giving alms, participating in the seasons of the church, like, you know, all this stuff. So at the same time, right, like, okay, could somebody call me out and say, like, hey, you know, you're pretending to be Catholic? And I would say, yeah, like, I am pretending to be Catholic. But
Cut that off right there.
What
Go to
Well,
black
it's
right there.
real.
crazy. But what proof do you have? Because if I'm such a good pretender that I do all of the steps necessary to make me Catholic, and a very good one at that, right? Like, I'm pretending,
think-
yes, but I'm legitimate.
I think a fascinating part of this is that I think anyone in the entire world can bring up a point to question whether you are pretending to be Catholic, whether Evan or myself is pretending to be Catholic. Why is that? Because we've all failed, because we're all sinners. God does not say, oh, you can go out and sin. God says, no, turn from all your sinful ways. Do any of us do that? We try,
Well, yeah.
right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
try our absolute best to, but we still fail. So people could still come out and say, oh, you're pretending. You're just trying to do this, yet you still do all these things that God says not to do. Are you pretending? I think any human being could bring up any point against someone that is Catholic and say, you are pretending, with that aspect of evidence to say that.
I will say, like, you know, and I agree with where you're going with, like, we should be authentic in our lives, right? Like, that's no doubt. I think we can all agree on that,
Yeah.
right? Like, when we're seeking this idea of moral authority, which I realized we didn't define at all, but it's, you know, you pretty much talked about it, right? But yeah, living this life beyond reproach, so as to lead others into a life beyond reproach.
Have you guys heard of this psychological, I guess phenomenon would be the word, called imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
Have you guys ever
Yeah.
heard of that?
I've heard of
You know
You've
what
heard
I'm
of
talking
it?
about? Yeah.
And that's what I think of when we're having this discussion, is that we are trying very much to be of moral authority and trying to live beyond reproach, and as leaders that we're trying to be, especially like with the podcast and everything like that. Like, we are trying to be the best Catholics that we can be. And this psychological mindset that can happen to us is called imposter syndrome, where we can overthink. And am I really as good as I am trying to show that I am to the world? And that's where I think the semblance of truth from this quote comes in. And that maybe pretend isn't the best word, right? And maybe saying we are as like our true identity isn't the best way to say this. But in the semblance of truth, like the partial truth that is in this, is that we should be, like, we should know how we're acting and how other people see it is very, very important for moral authority. And that's where, you know, you're going, like, you've got a good argument. I know what you're saying, but maybe not be as critical of it, because we can take something really good from this with our own filter to see through our own lens of why this quote gives us some goodness from it.
Yeah, I guess I have a question first, but the reason I am critical of it is because, like, I think it takes a lot to dive into this and understand that part. And I think at a surface level view of this quote, which is like quotes like this, a lot of time just in passing reading it, it could be taken in a very wrong direction. And so that's where I have that's why I like the wording changed a little bit better on it, because that's like when you think of a quote and you read a quote and it's a direct quote, it's a literal statement, and you're sitting there and you're like, boom, this is what's right in front of you. And if that's what's boom right in front of me and I'm just reading it passing, I'm like, whoa, right? And then so what the question I had for you guys is moral authority, right? We're talking about it on the outward effects towards others, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is moral authority related to yourself personally? That's my other question too, right? Because we're talking about, again, we're talking about pretending, and we're talking about, like, okay, if I act like we're Catholic, again, back to this argument, if we act like we're Catholic, do all the things that are required by a Catholic, and continue to do those things, right? Sure, it may affect the other people around us. Like, again, Oscar-nominated actors, yeah, they're great and everything, and they've convinced these people that they're these roles. But personally, right, I would think a full conversion of mind to Catholicism, even if you were pretending to be this person all along, I don't think personally you would ever be able to fully embrace that. And another thing, this is why we have OCIA and everything is, right, you can't pretend to be Catholic and say yes to Catholicism, if that makes sense. It's a paradox. It's a loop, right? And so that's why we have things like that. Like, if we didn't have that and you could just enter the Catholic Church and sing Kumbaya and just do that, then, oh, well, that'd be easy. Then Catholicism would be boom, like that. And then you could pretend all you wanted, right? That is kind of like, oh, this is like a no pretend thing. This is what we represent, right? And so that's what's important.
Well, I think, the important bit on that last bit, the last thing you said about, why we have OCIA and stuff, church teaching as well is just like we are looking at absolute truth. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things that, like, when you're dealing with absolute truth, you want to make sure that people understand it. I think...
I'm excited because you were...
Well, okay, so shout out Christian Bale, pull of all time. I'm sure you've heard of this, and I'm sure you've heard of this, but there was a year stint where Christian Bale did The Machinist, where he dropped down to 116 pounds, and then like 6 months later, he started filming Batman at like 196 pounds, right? And so he talks about in interviews all the time, or around this time when he did this, how like that psychologically affected him completely, like how like that physical transformation, what he was doing, how he was like portraying himself, how he was pretending, how he was acting, was impacting his life. We can look at this a lot, right? One of the saddest examples, again, I'm going to pull straight from Batman, but Heath Ledger, right? When you talk about like a person playing a role that deeply affected their life, I always it's so sad to me because I'll watch
Dark Knight,
10 Things I Hate About You, and I see Heath Ledger in that, and I'm like, man, this guy's good. He's upbeat. And then I'll watch interviews from around that time of like, The Dark Knight in Batman when he was playing the Joker and stuff like that, and I'm like, this is not the same person. But my point is, like, our pretending has effects on ourselves. In kind of the way that you said imposter syndrome, excuse me, kind of the way that you said this imposter syndrome, right? The opposite can be true, where we can con ourselves into believing that we're something we're not, and we pick up those characteristics. And so when we do this, if we strive for the wrong things, right, that's how it affects our lives. So we're pretending. This is kind of one of those things that, like, there's actual scientific research around if you force your body to smile, like if you're having a bad time and you have a smile, right, that muscle posture in your face, your brain is basically like, okay, well, this guy does this when he's happy, so let's release endorphins, right? Same thing like Pavlov's dogs. We heard about this.
That totally works. I can just feel it.
Psychology, right? Yeah. So like you start smiling, like you're immediately like your brain's kind of like, oh yeah, serotonin, endorphins, let's go. But it's the same thing. If you're pretending to live your life so well, you're kind of tricking your brain into believing like, this is how it is. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. And so it's why we say, and key in for a little bit later, it's why we say, like, keep up with a routine, be consistent. It's why we say, keep going to mass, keep going to confession, keep going to the sacraments, right? Because even if you're not emotionally in it, per se, in that moment, there's still absolute truth in that moment. Even if you're not feeling like moral authority, if you're feeling in like, going out and getting drunk or being lustful or whatever, right? If you're not feeling like living with moral authority, you're feeling like falling back into sin, that's when we have to like be pretenders and say, hey, this is not how I want to live my life. So I'm going to pretend for a little bit and pretend that I'm like, this is who I am. Like, I'm not dealing with this. And that's kind of sounds bad coming out of my mouth, but you understand my point of like, then your mind starts to think like, hey, this is who we are. Like we're better than this.
Yeah,
we're stronger than this.
One of my favorite quotes that I heard last summer from a priest back home was simply just going to church, taking that step is 50% of the battle. And it very much feels like that sometimes. Like you're in, especially it happens with daily mass because it's like in the middle of the day and it's during the normal days of the week. And so there's a bunch of other stuff going on. And I can feel myself during a lot of it. Just the mind is trying to go in so many places and not locked in on what's going on right now. But you have to be able to stay locked in, right? Or you have to at least be there. And what you're talking about right there. Like sometimes you don't feel like going. Sometimes you don't even feel like you're there and that you're fully invested, but you're taking that step and you're just making the effort to be there. And sometimes that's all that's needed. It goes back to what Austin talked about last week with just when you're praying to just say, God, I'm here. And that's all I have right now. I have no idea what else to do. And sometimes like you don't even try to pretend. All you're saying is just, I'm there. And that's all you can do. And God can do so many things with that. And that can go just such a long way. Cole, I know you were about to say something, so.
Oh, no, you're okay. I want to, I agree with what you're saying. I think I want to, expand on it just a hair. So I think that mindset, it's a good mindset to have, right? Because at some point you will, it's kind of like a way to trick your brain and your heart into kind of going back into that desire for your faith again. But I also think there is such grace and beauty in being able to find someone you trust. This is one of the beautiful things about Catholicism with confession, and have the humility to admit your faults to somebody, right? And so I get this. I get the purpose of it, but I think it can be taken out of order. I think this is a good thing to do in moderation, right? I think a lot of people...
What can be?
What can be? Like faking it till you make it. Okay. This thing. Yeah.
Yes,
right.
for sure.
Very much so. And I just want to, I know that y'all know that. I just wanted to preference it for people listening. Like, if you're faking it till you make it to everybody and everything in your life, and it's just you with your thoughts, you will not progress forward. It is very hard to live your life in your faith alone. That's just not how it's going to work. And so, yes, in moderation, I understand it. Yes. So I just be a little careful about that. And one other thing I want to say, this is from St. Therese of Lisieux. She says, if every tiny flower wanted to be a rose, spring would lose its loveliness. So one last thing, I'm gonna reword this just specifically for this quote, just gonna change one word. If every tiny little flower pretended to be a rose, spring would lose its loveliness. So one of the things I want to say about this is, while other people may not be able to see, right? And if you pretended to be a rose, other people, our friends, our family, whoever on earth would be able to see, would see a rose, right? They'd see that rose. Internally, you're still that tiny little flower, and you may even be dying a little bit. But God, when he looks at you, he sees that possibility of that flower. And God is always reaching out to you and telling, I'm going to help you grow. I can help you grow. But, right, if you're pretending, he can still see that you're struggling, right? And so as long as we pretend and as long as we don't reach out and as long as we fake it till we make it to the point where it's just you're never going to grow, and you will always be that little flower. And so, right, while other people may see that budding rose, internally you're still that flower, and God can see that you're still that flower, and he wants to help you grow. So I guess that's where my mind goes with this whole quote, if that makes sense. But yeah.
No, that's valid. I like that.
That's a good way to end the first section. We will come back with final thoughts later. That's good with you, Evan?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we are going to move on to our shepherd of the week, right? Or do we want to go practical prayer practice? I honestly forgot the order.
That's what I was just thinking in my head. I was like, what
do we do it consistent? I don't remember.
I think we change it every once in a while, kind of just depending on how we feel.
I'm remembering now, I think practical prayer practice goes
second.
First? Second?
It's second.
Okay, so shepherd of the week. Yes, shepherd of the week. Our shepherd of the week for episode number 49, which will air on April 27th, the week after
Easter.
Is that Divine Mercy Sunday?
I
Yes.
think so.
Our
Yeah.
Divine Mercy Sunday Shepherd of the Week is the one and only Father Tom. He is the pastor here at St. Francis University. We've had him for the last 2 years. Evan, have you 3 years for Evan?
Yeah, he has been here for the past 10 years.
Yeah, and he's just been an awesome priest to have, whether it be just going to his mass, listening to his homilies, going to confession, to Father Tom, or just having him around campus, especially this semester. Cole and I have had Father Tom over multiple times to play euchre, including last night. If you don't know what euchre is, that probably means you're not from the Midwest, unless you're Cole. It is a Midwestern 4-person card game, 2v2, very, very fun. I got to shout this out now. I didn't even think about this until now. I was on Father Tom's team last night. Cole was playing with our friend John B. Evan, you don't even know this. The record for last night, Father Tom and I won 6 games. Cole and John B, 0 victories. So
6-0 is
6-0, absolute beatdown.
Do you have like a
defense? Is that what you're gonna?
Is
ask
there
for
a defensive?
reason? Well,
Does 6-0 leave you with a defensible?
No, it does
I mean,
not.
you're
No,
losing
it does not.
every
We
single major
had-
sports ever.
we had no cards fall last night. It was really bad. It was like a very miserable time playing euchre. But what made it even worse is when last time they came over. So they came over earlier this week, and John B and I were on a team against Nazario and Father Tom, and we had a great night. I think we won like 4-1.
It was 3-1.
3-1.
Don't try to take
And
victories.
so Father Tom's kept saying it's Easter Monday. I'm just exhausted. It's Easter Monday. So that was his excuse every time. And so
Classic.
I
He
just-
showed it.
I got to talk some smack to a priest for the next couple days, and then he came back
Yeah.
to play, and it wasn't Easter Monday anymore. So
I've never had a good track record with talking smack to priests. So yeah, Father Tom, awesome. Really sad that he's leaving at the end of the semester. Just a really cool guy. In addition to being a fantastic priest, just a really cool guy, and someone who wants to be in communion with his people and with his community.
I would say it's kind of like
Yeah.
being Scottie Pippen next to Michael Jordan, because here at Alabama at St. Francis, we have Father
In the
Mugaga.
wo-
And
Oh.
Father Mugaga has this
That's
just this type of aura around him. Like, people just flock to him and they love him. But they forget about this awesome other priest named Father Tom. And that could just be me and how my perspective of it is. But I see a lot of people going towards Father Mugaga, and they love Father Mugaga, always will talk about him. But then you've got this amazing Scottie Pippen, Father Tom, this awesome guy that without him, the things wouldn't be the way they are. They wouldn't be as great as they are here at St. Francis. And it's awesome to be able to see. We go into Mass and say Father Mugaga is doing this Mass on Sunday, but Father Tom is right there anyways, ready to, give you a handshake and a smile when you come into Mass. That's one of my favorite memories of Father Tom, is just walking into Mass and seeing him there. And he's trying to make sure everything's going right, but he'll give you a nice little smile. But also, I just thought of this as well. Father Mugaga, when he's ministering the Eucharist, will just say the body of Christ, but Father Tom will actually say your name if he knows you. And it is one of the coolest things I've probably ever experienced, is when he says Nazario, the body of Christ. And it's awesome.
Yeah. I will say, I think I'm drawing more of a comparison like LeBron D Wade, honestly.
I don't really think there's a difference right there. I think those are
there's
similar
a huge
comparisons.
difference. There's a huge difference. Well, I mean, D Wade, and not to say Scottie Pippen didn't have a Hall of Fame career, but I feel like D Wade has more of a shout of being an all-time player than Scottie Pippen.
That is a separate debate.
Well, but also, if anything, Michael Jordan and what's his name?
Scottie Pippen?
No, the crazy one.
Oh, Dennis Rodman?
Dennis Rodman. It would be something like that, right? Not to say Father Tom is crazy, but like something that like nobody talked about until like 15 years after, and they're like, dude, that guy was insane. Like Michael Jordan, nothing without Dennis Rodman. But anyway.
In other words, if you want to be compared to some of the greatest basketball players of all time, become a priest, and we'll talk about you.
Yeah.
And
shout out Father Mugaga for actually being really good at basketball too.
Yeah.
Like
he's
actually goated. Yeah.
But my favorite Father Tom memory is very recent, actually. It's from Easter Vigil, and I think it was just the funniest thing watching. I've never seen a priest like absolutely break out laughing during a mass. and he lost it when he was blessing everybody during the water, and he was dying, and it was the funniest thing I have ever seen, and he loved it.
Well, the
He
thing was,
so
I don't know
giggly.
if our non-Catholic viewers know what we're talking about. I actually don't even know the name of it, but it's the stick that the priest takes and like throws the water around with.
It's
And I've never seen this
gold thing.
before.
It's not a stick. It's a
Yes, it has, but
it's
it
a lot
looks
prettier than a stick.
Yes, but it looks like the shape of a stick. And so Father Tom had to stick it into this bucket that a server was carrying around each time he was about to throw. So
Yeah.
that thing would get filled with water every time. And this dude was straight just throwing his wrist, like flicking his wrist as hard as he possibly could. And I went later.
Had you never seen that?
I've never seen someone do it as aggressively as Father Tom.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
Yeah.
say, like, that's incredible. Anyway.
But I was walking around this pew where he had done it, and there is a just puddle of water from where Father Tom had just he was just going at it and having a blast, which is awesome because Easter Vigil is supposed to be this incredible time of rejoicing about the resurrection. It was an incredible time, and that can play into Cole. Now Easter has come, Lent is over, and we are on to our next practical prayer practice to help us as we go along in the post-Easter season.
He's defining something.
No, I'm not defining it. I actually just wanted to figure out the name of the stick.
Yeah.
That is defining, is it not?
No, I think it's just stating the term.
What's the name of the stick?
It's I don't want to butcher the name, but it's an aspergillum.
Yeah, aspergillum. Aspergillum.
Yeah.
That's-
Gillum?
yeah.
G is in Latin is J, right?
Aspergillum.
Or it could be the L's might be silent. Geum, aspergillum,
I think it's aspergillum. That sounds right to me.
aspergillum.
Yeah.
Interesting. But anyways, yeah, that's what it's called. It's like a gold stick with a ball attached to the end that has holes in it. So when you sprinkle it, and it's just in this font of water that you just pull from, that the server follows with. But yeah, I'll introduce our practical prayer practice of the week. So as you guys know, the season of Lent is ended. Now we are still celebrating Easter.
Happy Easter.
But the 40 days of Lent are over, which means our fasts are no longer asked of us. Now, what the purpose of this practical prayer practice for this week is to encourage you to persevere in your prayer life after Lent, right? I know a lot of times Lent ends, right, and we have this big chance for the 40 days to recoup, recover, and grow strong in our faith again. And Lent ends, and then we fall back. And it's like, prayer life's gone because it's no longer required of us, and this and this and this and whatever. And we have developed all these excuses. I've been there. I've done that, right? So I understand. And so I encourage you, and I encourage the three of us, to continue the prayer life that we had during Lent, to continue to grow. And even with some of the fasts that we had, like mine was complaining, right? If the 40 days of Lent ended and I started complaining again, I'd want y'all to beat me with a stick, right? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Have you found a stick yet?
Get up real quick.
Anyways, right? If I started complaining, I would be like, if y'all didn't get on to me for that and be like, wow, that's like a good Lenten sacrifice and something you should practice in your life, then I'm going to continue to try to work on it.
Evan is geeking over here.
Dude, I'm gonna lose my mind.
So next time I
it's just
complain, I'm
funny.
going to smack across the face.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
anyways,
how's
Another-
circuits?
Hold on. Another
Start to
How
love
I
the
Met Your
class.
Mother pool. Can I, you're Barney, I'm Marshall with
I
the
am without a
slaps.
doubt not Barney.
Dude,
No, I'm
slaps.
saying the
Okay.
slaps.
Gosh.
Okay.
When you complain, you get the slap count.
You know, our
down.
real sponsorship
That's
needs
terrifying.
to be with
Do I give
How
you
I
a
Met Your
slap?
Mother.
Do I give you a count? Okay. I'll shake
Slap
on that.
counter?
I'll shake on that if every time I see you do your hair, I add a slap to the counter.
No, that is no way comparable.
Oh, it's
That's
definitely
pretty comparable.
Nope.
Yes,
Nope.
it is.
Nope.
That's massively.
All right,
comparable.
guys. So
That's
thank y'all for
crazy.
what.
That's
That's
crazy.
massively
I
comparable.
think it's very similar because I think as humans we complain a lot, and I think you curl your hair a lot. So I think it's a pretty balanced.
Looks
thing.
very nice this morning, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What about?
I would say that complaining is not inherently bad, but definitely has bad things to it. I don't think there's technically anything bad with me curling my hair.
I would agree.
Okay, that could be pretty frustrating for people that are sitting there talking to you, and you're just like, "Hey, how are you?"
I don't know. It's kind of cute.
Really?
Riz.
Anyways,
W
how
Riz.
about every 3 times it happens, we'll add a slap to the
Every
slap
3
counter.
times, he's gonna count so many things. You're gonna win this bet by like you're never gonna have any slaps against you
You know
because
what I need to do is define complaining for Cole because Yeah, I need to know specifically.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
'cause
When
he does
he-
it a lot.
when
If
he
it-
came in,
technically
he was
would be
like-
complaining.
We all do.
Every day for the next year, I have to study for ECE or for circuits. Like,
Is that complaining? Is it?
No, I think it's just an acknowledgement.
see, I would
complaining
take that
be
as
like,
complaining.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I feel like complaining is like being like, oh, I hate that I have to do this. This is so terrible. That's complaining.
Oh.
Like, you get what I'm saying?
Well, do you?
But
hate
if you're
that,
like, yeah,
do you
I
hate
have
that
to
you have to
study
do it? Is it so
circuits all
terrible?
what?
Do you hate that you have to do it? Is it so terrible?
It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I put up with it because I
See,
want
that's
to
just
be.
polite
So,
complaining.
is that pretending?
It's just polite.
Is that
complaining.
pretending?
Anyway,
Right
anyway,
there.
anyway.
So yeah, persevering prayer. Stick with it. Develop a routine. For purposes of the quote, if you don't have a prayer routine right now, fake it till you make it in this instance, right?
Whoa, Cole is.
Fake it till you make it, but like
And
actually pray.
endorsing that?
Yeah, actually pray, but like consistently pray, and eventually
Yeah.
your prayer routine will build
Well,
itself.
also, I think 5 minutes. Like I always think about that. Like, shut up. Did you? We're gonna talk about this later. But recently, a survey was out, and one of the questions was like, "Do you spend 15 minutes a day in daily mental prayer?" And to myself, I was thinking, like, are there times during the day where I sit down and pray 15 minutes consecutively with like nothing going on, like not in front of the Blessed Sacrament, not at Mass? I was like, no. But like, do I pray a total of 15 minutes throughout the day? Absolutely. Because I'll prayer before meals. I'll be walking to class and I'll be praying. I'll, start and end Bible study. Or last night when we were hanging out with friends, like we started and ended our hangout with prayers, stuff like that, right? And so, start tiny. And again, like praying a bunch of little times throughout the day is not tiny. Like, let's be abundantly clear. That's a process.
Yeah.
But start in the morning. Say one simple prayer, even if it's, sign of the cross. Hey, Lord, I'm thankful for waking up this morning, which has become a huge part of my life recently. Just waking up in the morning and just being grateful for that. Sign of the cross, get on with your day, right? And it's just stuff like that until you build up. And again, don't say stagnant. Like, be consistent. Don't say stagnant. Like you're saying, you have to grow.
Yeah.
Like, there's growth to be done. So, but it's like anything, right? If you lift, if you work out, if you're on a diet, if you are studying for classes, it's the same thing. How do you build, right? You take what you already know and you add a little bit onto that and you have something new. So you pray a little bit in the morning, add on something in the evening, or pray a little bit more in the morning, or maybe stop in for 5 minutes into the Adoration Chapel and sit in front of the Blessed Sacrament and say nothing. Let God work in your life. Recognize that greater presence that Austin was talking about. But just, start somewhere, be consistent about it. And even if it's the tiniest little thing, even if it's a minute a day, a minute is better than 0 minutes.
And
As
when
a great mathematician once told me.
When I hear Evan say 5 minutes can change the world, I think of two great references. I don't know if you guys will get them. But in the movie We Bought a Zoo, you guys ever seen that?
Yeah. Actually, that's a crazy pull.
The mother has passed away for the whole movie. But at the end of the movie,
She comes back at the end.
she does not come back to life, no, or anything like that. But the father takes his children and shows them where he met their mother. And he was walking outside, sees through the window this woman. He's like, that's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. And he tells himself, 30 seconds of courage, 30 seconds of courage. And he goes in there, and I think he said he walked back out at the first time, but then he did told himself again, 30 seconds of courage, 30 seconds of courage. And he goes back in there, and he talks to her, and the rest is history. And then my other reference is from Dude Perfect. If you guys remember, they always have these sports battles, and Ty, by far the best Dude Perfect guy there is, Ty says, one swing in the back can change the world. One swing in the back can change the world.
Yeah.
And he wins the battle. So if you don't get that, I'm really sorry. But two great references for just little things. Just one little thing can change the entire world.
I'm a big Kobe fan, by the way.
Unrelated.
Not
Kobe?
Ty.
Kobe?
Kobe Cotton?
Cody.
Kobe.
Kobe Cotton.
His name is Kobe?
Yeah, there's Ty,
Corey.
Garrett,
C-O-B-Y?
Kobe, Corey, Cody.
Oh, I always thought it was Colby or Corey.
No, Kobe.
Corey
There is a Corey, right?
Yeah, there is
Okay, yeah.
Corey. Kobe's
I
brother.
love Kobe.
We need to see if there's a soccer golf place around. Why have I
Dude,
never thought of that?
We
I
talked
said that
about
a couple
the
days
other
ago.
day.
I wouldn't
You know
be
how
good,
fun
but
that would be?
I know, but also what I was thinking is, you know how they do the
All sports challenge, golf challenge.
all sports golf challenge? We should go out to Old Colony.
It'd be so much fun.
They would kill us.
Why?
If we kicked soccer balls and threw a baseball on the golf course, they would kill us. There's no way they'd let us do that. Are you talking about like at the disc golf baskets?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we could do.
No, not on the course.
I was gonna say,
the
dude,
disc
Also
golf.
on the court, like, okay, they don't do it on. Do they? They don't do it on actual golf.
No, they did it on an actual golf course. But
Oh.
Dude Perfect has like the ability to.
Yeah.
that would be such
Reserve
a cool
we should do that.
Lashy podcast, all sports,
Yeah.
disc golf.
Because like
That would be
low key,
pretty
we
sick.
could get us three in. Like, I know Pierce is gonna want to come, but like we could do. We gotta do this now. We could do like, yeah, soccer, football, frisbee, and like baseball or
We
something.
can get back to school.
Because that would cover like
Be pretty fun.
your baseball. I mean, we're kind of soccer,
Football. You guys would
football,
disc golf.
and then disc golf covers pretty much all three of
Yeah.
us, all four of us. But
We can get a hockey stick. That's what Dude Perfect did on.
that'd be really hard in the grass. But yeah, or like yeah, we'd have to throw the baseball though. We couldn't hit it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, maybe we'll just post
that'd
a
be fun.
thing and
Anyway,
yeah, fun
okay.
ideas.
Final thoughts on the quote, just to wrap up. I think this is a very long episode. Actually, I'm not
It's
gonna
a-
lie to you.
it says only 47
No,
minutes
I think
actually.
it's
Evan.
short, yeah.
Oh really? Cool.
but I feel like it's been
this
a
would
lot
be
of quality, a lot of substance.
Oh yeah.
My final thing is I know that Evan and I were pushing Cole a little bit, but we wanted to challenge him, wanted to make it interesting for the episode.
We still love you, buddy.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
of course. But oh, hold on. I'm getting a call. My camera is okay. We're still good. Sorry, Mom. I will call you after this. So we were talking about pretending. Evan and I were saying little things about pretending, fake it till you make it, everything like that. But one thing that we didn't, I guess, define or say was genuine authenticity is so incredible. And that's my kind of final thing for this, is that being genuinely authentic is absolutely incredible. And it's one of the things that I think I am very much genuinely authentic in just the way that I act. And I try to say that like in a humble way. I think I just, like whatever pops in my head, more than likely it's going to come out from my mouth.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
if you say that's not genuinely authentic, then maybe I just have a different definition for what that is. But that's what I think of. Like, if that's how I feel, if that's how what I think of, that's how I'm going to act. And I like to think that's genuinely authentic. And whether people do or don't like it is different. I mean, that's up to them. But I don't know what happened over there.
He just showed me a foot golf course 2 hours away and said it's doable.
It's okay. Well,
Anyway,
that is Cole being genuinely authentic because he is very into foot golf, I guess.
I would
But
absolutely agree with you. I think, and additionally, I'll say, here's the beginning of our dating podcast.
dating podcast. Oh.
Well, for us,
Yeah, we both can actually say something.
authenticity.
Evan just slid a knuckle touch to Cole.
Authenticity is a very attractive quality as well. Like, in addition to being the absolute way you should live your life, like authentically, truthfully, and fully in the sacraments, in your personal life, in your academic life, everything, right? And that goes along with being excellent in those things. It's very attractive to other people. And so we often talk about, like, people follow Jesus because he was authentic. People follow all sorts of people because they're seemingly authentic. Even the good actors, we can cue this back in, they seem authentic. And so leading with example, leading with courage, leading with distinction, leading with authenticity is often one of the best gifts that you can give to yourself and also to others. So
Yeah, and my final thing with authenticity, Cole, and then you get the final word, Cole. So my final thing is, if we are supposed to be our real, true, authentic selves, then we should be as close to the image of God and being like Christ as we possibly can be, because that is who our true, authentic self is. So I want to say, like, don't just be impulsive and don't just do whatever your crazy brain thinks of as a 20-year-old. So don't just be impulsive. Be real, authentically an image of Christ.
19. But anyways,
I'm 20, so
sorry,
I can
I'm
say
19, yeah.
20.
tragic. Anyways, yeah, authentic.
Evan's 21.
You are 21.
21.
19,
Are we
20,
old?
21.
Am I going to... Wait, when's your birthday?
August.
Okay. Continue.
Yeah, his is the day before mine. So
Woof. Buddy is a baby. Holy cow. I did not know that.
crazy. Yeah. Yes, authenticity in all relationships, whether it's a dating relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a family relationship, is a very attractive quality because it helps you develop trust in somebody. And again, it's how you stop pretending things and how you like get to fully develop with somebody else. It's awesome. So you mentioned in order to practice authenticity, like living, just being who you are, right? And so the three things I want to highlight from the quote from the Catechism, the last thing I want to say that I had at the very beginning, it is the image and likeness of God, vocation, and dignity. Practicing those three, right? It's extremely valuable. That's how you live an authentic life because those are the identity that was given to us by God at the beginning of creation. This was when we were created. We had all these three things, and we will always have these three things. So practicing those three things will help us live an authentic life. Other than that, I think that's all I got. Thank you guys so much for listening. Shout out real quick.
Down.
Please like, subscribe, comment. You too.
Also,
order your shirts, please.
Also, if you want to leave us a review on whatever podcast form you're on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, I don't know, wherever you might be, leave us a review. It could be a terrible review, a good review. I mean, obviously we'd like good reviews, but I mean, any criticism is
Terrible review.
warranted.
Nice.
But my final quote to end us off,
Go.
from St. Catherine of Siena: "Be who you are meant to be, and you will set the world on fire." Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 49. We'll be back for a very special episode 50 coming your way next Sunday. We will get that. Cole, sign us off.
Oh, I'm doing it. Okay, cool. Yeah, last thing that Nazario failed to mention: shirts. Please, please buy our shirts. You too, please buy your shirts because we made the shirts and your names are on them, and y'all don't have a shirt yet. Eventually, all three of us will show
ridiculing, public passive aggressive.
Eventually, all three of us will show up in our own merch for an episode, and it's going to be great. That day is going to be lovely. You know what would be a great day? Would have been a great day for that to happen? Episode 50.
Sure.
Anyways, order your shirts. If you want a bracelet, ask us about a bracelet. Keep your eyes peeled on our Instagram page. I am consistently updating it, and we will have a giveaway shortly again for the summer. Don't know what we're going to have featured in that giveaway yet. I would assume it's going to be a shirt and a bracelet plus a couple other things.
Giveaway items.
Yeah, giveaway items. So just be aware, and enter if you want a chance to win anything. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. We are the Lost Sheep Podcast. God bless.